Okay, quilters, it is week 8, our final week for the mystery quilt, the 2016 mystery quilt, and as you can see, the design is a hunter star. And let me show you why it's called the hunter star. You've got the stars, but you also have these arrowheads. The white makes a subsequent design that is an arrowhead, and you can see it going through here. So every time there's that arrowhead, it defines the quilt as a hunter star, because arrowheads, hunting, yeah, the whole thing. Okay, so what I want you to do now that you have put all the borders, put all of the rows together, and remember again, it didn't make any difference which row you started with, as long as you alternated, because we had both, we had 8 or an even number of each, 4 of each style of row. So it didn't make any difference if you started with a star in the corner or you started with a 4 patch in the corner. It's all going to work out fine. But now, you've put a lot of work into this quilt, and I want you to finish strong. So I'm going to tell you how to do the borders to make your quilt square again. Now, I counted, and up on this row right here, there are 39 opportunities for error, because there are 39 seams, counting, maybe you can see this one, but there are 39 seams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just in one square across the top. So if you do that 39 times, 39 seams times a 32nd of an inch off, your quilt is not going to measure out to what the math says it should be. Technically, this should be 63.5 inches, because 7 times 9 is 63, plus a half an inch on either end for the seam allowance, or a half an inch on one end for the seam allowance, or a 1/4 inch. So technically, it should be 63 and 1/2 inches from side to side across the top and the bottom. Reality is, it's not going to be that. So here's what you need to do, unless you want a ruffle or a pleat or something unattractive at the bottom edge of your quilt. Here's what you need to do. Measure your quilt from side to side through the middle. Now, mine measured 62 3/4 inches, not 63.5, 62 3/4 inches through the middle. Up here on the top edge, it was a different measurement, and down below at the bottom, it was still another measurement. But what you want is for it to be, your truest measurement is really through the center of your quilt. So we want the 2 ends to match with the center of your quilt. So what you need to do is measure through the middle of your quilt from end to end, cut 2 identical 2.5 inch wide by that measurement pieces of fabric, exactly that measurement. That can be tricky when you're using, just a mat, but fold it in half, do whatever you need to do to get it to be exactly that measurement long. And then you're going to pin it, you're going to find the center and the 1/4 marks, and I just iron them on to that strip. I just fold that strip in half, press that folded seam, then fold it in half and press that other folded seam, and I get 4/4. With that, you're going to find the 4/4 of this quilt. And don't be deceived into thinking that this center, which should be the center right here, should be the center of your quilt. It might not be the center of your quilt. And you need to you need to fold your quilt edge, the top edge, in half, find where the actual real center of it is. On one end of mine, it was the center. On another end of mine, it was over, just slightly, like a 1/4 of an inch over. But you want to find that center. Then you want to pin your border, those creases, to those 1/4 marks on your quilt, and ease your quilt into that piece. Do that to the top and to the bottom, and your top and bottom will suddenly be the exact same width. Then lay your quilt down, because this quilt is actually too big for my quilt wall. As you can see, I literally have it stapled at both ends. Don't staple your quilt. It's just what I had to do this. Then to do this is the inner border we're talking about right now. So then you need to do the sides then. And this time now you've got a border at the top, so you can't take a measurement that you took earlier before you put the border at the top. So now you have to measure from this top, including the outside border, all the way through the center to that outside border. Again, cut 2 identical pieces and piece them on. And now what you have is a perfectly squared up quilt. Quilters, the people you hire to actually do the quilting, putting the 3 layers together into one, so that it's one cozy quilt, not the piecers. You've been piecing this quilt, different from the quilters. When quilters get your quilt, their biggest fear is that your quilt will not be squared up. And if it isn't, they're going to look like they're not good. To say to a quilter, you can quilt it out, meaning you can quilt my imperfections out, no, they can't. No, they can't. If there's going to be a wrinkle, there's going to be a wrinkle. If there's going to be a pleat, there's going to be a pleat. So do your quilter a favor and square up your quilt. Now that you've done that, and you've achieved this nice square quilt, don't stop now. Because if you take, now we're going to do 5.5 inch wide borders for the outer border. So you're going to cut 5.5 inch strips. If you just lay that 5.5 inch strip along this edge and just sew without taking the measurement, without being precise, you're going to have a wobbly, waffly end of your quilt. Don't do it. Just take the measurement, make the cut, and you're going to be so happy with your finished product because it's going to be square. I do quilting of small size, twin size, and smaller quilts. This is too big for me. In fact, I'm sending it off to Missouri Star to do. But when I get a quilt that's square, I'm very happy about that because it's just, I can just quilt it and everything's fine and I can return the product to the client and they're happy to get it. They're not being all freaked out because it's got, why is there a wrinkle in it? Well, you didn't square it up. And then it becomes their fault that I didn't make it perfect. It's much better if you just make it perfect when you give it to your quilter. Everybody will be happier. So do that, measure through the center of your quilt, cut the strip, the border, the inner border, and then the outer border, and you have to take fresh new measurements. You'd think that you added 2 1/4 inches on either side. Once you take the seam allowance that's found in here, you'd think that, oh, I can just add 4.5 inches to that previous measurement. No. Re-measure, because it doesn't take that long to do. Re-measure through the center of your quilt again and cut the top and the bottom to that size. Press it out, then get it back out again so you can measure from including that top border and the bottom border, the outer one that you put on, and cut that, and you're going to end up with the best, squarest, most cool quilt. Now, I said I was sending mine to Missouri Star to have it quilted. It's going to this quilt is 77 by 87 roughly by the math. It's that size. My quilt is not quite that big, but close enough. And they're charging me $130, $133 and some pennies to quilt this. I will mail it to them. They will quilt it because it's too big to fit on my table. So they will quilt it for me, and they're putting in their own batting. That includes the batting. I did have my own backing. As I told you before, I got this blue. Oh, I didn't tell you that, did I? This is my backing color. So that's my outer border, and my backing is going to be this beautiful turquoise. So I'm providing the backing for it, but they will do everything. They'll even bind it for you if you want them to bind it for you. I think it was $45 by machine and $55 by hand. I enjoy the binding process, so I'm going to do that myself on my quilt when I get it back. But I encourage you to use a local quilter or do your quilting on your machine. It's all straight lines, so you literally could do it on your machine, your home domestic machine. That's not my thing. I don't like to do that. So I'm just sending mine away. It's the first time I've ever done it, so we'll see how it works. That's it. I love you guys. The Mystery Quilt 2016 is now done. Please send me your pictures. I can't wait to see them all. Okay, peace out, guys. Peace out? Really? Did I say that? How about God bless you guys?